What's up, y'all? Jax-Prince, Sovereign Ho, and yes, as of March 23rd, 2025, that is in fact my full legal name, checking in and reporting for duty after a nearly 2-year hiatus from non-binary, nerdy, and neurodivergent, and making this type of long-form nerd analysis and review content in my trademark and original style of in-depth, informative, educational, and entertaining content that you'll be familiar with my work through Black Girls Anime and I guess a certain unnamed toxic and abusive manga and animation company, but that's neither here nor there. A lot has happened in the last year alone, including having spent the last 10 months recovering at a domestic violence shelter, undergoing a complete legal name change that saw me add Sovereign as my middle name, with Ho as my last name, and a complete and total refocusing of priorities and self as I decentered, desperately prioritizing wanting marriage and children at any cost, and entertaining the needs of abusive men, partners, exes, family, and people. Part of that journey includes having gone back to school at the beginning of this year to become a doctor, yes, a doctor, presently pursuing a double major in theater academy and psychology to obtain a PhD in theater and a PsyD in psychology, and completely reigniting my lifelong love of both acting, performing, and psychology, and even having gone so far as to just filmed, well, my first film, just last month in June of this year. And in turn, while preparing for my latest upcoming auditions as an actress and voice actor, I've happily gotten back into centering my other lifelong love, anime, manga, and video games. The crossover opportunity for my favorite mediums of acting, psychology, and anime to overlap came about when the director for my potential next project said the role would require me to not only to be able to cry on cue and quickly, but go into a full-blown fit of weeping hysteria. As an actor, summoning your own raw pain stemmed from your traumas may be difficult to do in the moment. However, nothing gets me crying harder or faster than remembering moments from my favorite anime and manga and video games, including the topic of today's analysis and major spoiler warnings for Madhouse's one-season masterpiece, Death Parade, of which dropped exactly 10 years ago to overwhelming and critical success that continues in the nerd sphere to this day. Death Parade is the ultimate subversion of the death game / battle royale genre and centers the lives? Question mark, of the stoic Decim, an afterlife arbiter responsible for judging the souls of the living through a series of games such as darts, old maids, and bowling. Decim is accompanied by his mortal assistant, Chiyuki, of whom, unlike all of the people that pass through their bar of judgment, is fully aware that she is dead, and as such is assigned to be Decim's assistant, overseeing judgments until it is time for judgment to be passed down from the cold, pale hands of Decim. Death Parade left an indelible mark on me for its cruel but cool concept, its incredible soundtrack that I still bump to this day, its heart-wrenching moments that after my recent rewatch still have me ugly sobbing while gasping for breath, and lastly, and I cannot emphasize this enough, the raw and guttural voice acting in both the sub but especially the English dubbing of Death Parade that really doesn't get the flowers it deserves as being one of the turning points in the history of making people take dubbed anime and English voice acting as a whole far more seriously. I also really want to stress that as a voice actor, Death Parade absolutely comes across as one of those series that you work on, but you would need to see the cast needing to take a good long break after recording every episode due to the overwhelming psychological nature of both the plot as well as the aforementioned raw and guttural emotions that these actors had to embody and display. A lot of this really doesn't feel like acting, but that it's pulled directly from the actor's own pain and trauma, and this is what you see on full display. Which, you know, isn't exactly something you would expect as the overarching premise for the series, especially upon seeing that Death Parade's goddamn opening theme song that is the sickest subversion joke in anime opening history, sitting right up there on the mantle, cross-legged, sitting next to fucking Shadowstar Narutoru, just geeking together about collectively traumatized an entire generation, but no big deal, I guess. Watching this anime 10 years later and having frequently rewatched over the years while still bumping its opening and closing song to this day has absolutely been an experience as well as transformative due to the many themes in Death Parade that I originally connected with and related to 10 years ago have since now doubled, and the impact hits harder than I could have ever prepared for. Death Parade is an anime that will have you crying every single episode due to the fact that it can be incredibly triggering. Dealing with heavy themes such as the central ones, of course, of life and especially death, suicide, child loss, sexual assault, regret, rage, and so many other cosmoses of emotion that will leave you questioning and examining the very fragile and delicate fabric of what it means to be human and how to live with the limited time that we have. When it comes to environmental storytelling, few do it as masterfully as Death Parade. One of my favorite examples of this being the very promo I shared to social media when I talked about rewatching this, because there's something in the promo that I didn't even notice on the first watch that gives away the answer to one of the fandom's biggest questions, and once again, I'm throwing up major spoiler up for episode 1. Part of what made Death Parade so successful is that it came out the gate swinging with an impactful and effective episode 1, centering the deterioration of the marriage of the quote-unquote newlywed and newly dead couple Machiko and Takashi. That, and I mean, well, look at the fucking budget for this production. This is so blatantly Madhouse flexing its finances, because this is even called out itself verbatim by one of the characters later on in the series.
Holy crap, this show must have a serious budget.
But back to Machiko and her ain't shit husband though. The couple are forced to face off in a game of darts, which has one little caveat, that being that each of the targets on the dartboard are connected to their own individual body parts. As their memories return due to them having been lost to the shock of dying initially, they begin to show their true selves to be judged. Takashi, who could carry the fucking Olympic torch for how fast he speeds to really wrong assumptions, confronts Machiko about her infidelity and the possibility of the child that she's carrying might not be his, or even if she's really pregnant in the first place. To answer that question, I draw your attention back to the promo, of which shows the various deceits that come through Deckham's bar of judgment. If you look just closely enough at Machiko's abdominal area, you can see the designers intentionally put a bit of roundness to Machiko's stomach. This absolutely tracks with Machiko's own words of saying she's 10 weeks pregnant, and according to Google, typically pregnant people begin to show between 12 and 16 weeks. However, the brilliance of this promo is that you could just as easily chalk the excess space around Machiko's stomach due to how she's being suspended, of course due to the effects of gravity and the resulting folding excess of her clothes. Another popular trope that sees pregnant women, especially pregnant women in anime and manga, wear baggier clothes to hide the pregnancy. Of which it was confirmed Machiko was hiding her pregnancy to surprise Takashi on their honeymoon. I could go on for an eternity about the sheer brilliance of Death Parade, but Instagram has a time limit, so if you'd like to see me do a series breaking down each episode and analyzing the characters, drop it down in the comments below and let me know what you thought of Death Parade if you've seen it. In the meantime, if you'd like to check out more of my analyses and reviews of your favorite anime, manga, video games, pop culture, and more, the link to my YouTube is in my bio. Thanks again for watching, and don't forget to check out the link in my bio to where you can follow me on my socials, support my content and journey, and make sure to follow and subscribe for more in-depth, informative, educational, and entertaining analyses and reviews of your favorite anime, manga, video games, and hentai, all for the culture.